I am going to, or I'm doing a TikTok live, and that's who I'm speaking to in the comments. But if you want to leave comments as well, feel free for my YouTube peeps, and I will answer those. I was thinking SpongeBob when I got here. Oh, nice. We're all under the ocean together. Okay. So who in here is feeling like they have a, I don't even like to call them like blockages, because sometimes when we say blockages, it kind of like solidifies them even deeper in, and it kind of like does like a mind trick game on us. I like to call them filter lenses that we are clearing the fog up from, okay? Or like the self-limiting beliefs, or, you know, oh, you can't hear the music, okay. I'm gonna turn it off. Okay, so like filter lenses, because that's what they really are, because babies are not born with self-limiting beliefs. Those are other people's projections and traumas and self-doubt that have been placed on us, and a lot of that comes from our root chakra from childhood, because, oh, you're welcome. A lot of that comes from our childhood, because that's when we're getting programmed, and our personality from a psychology end is really set, like it's malleable, but it's set by the time we're 7 to 8 years old. And so if we have a lot of people that are overlaying those things onto our reality, it really shifts our perceptual lenses and how we interact with the world and see the world, right? Hey, Britt. So that's why I like to call them filter lenses and not blocks, because sometimes blocks is a very self-detrimental word to use, because it makes it almost like more concrete, right? But when we call them filter lenses, or whatever you want to call them, right, that is giving you enough openness to say, like, even like up here we can see it kind of looks like filter lenses. It's giving you openness of like, hey, this is not my fault that these things are here, they were placed here, right? But they can be removed. I'm gonna turn my air conditioner down because it's hot in here, so I'll be right back. Give me like 2 seconds. It's like I always forget before I do workshops to turn it down. Okay, panic attacks can definitely come from your root chakra, because we feel like unstable in our reality. Okay, so why are we focusing on our root chakra today? So your root chakra is the foundation, like it's the base. It really affects all the other chakras, especially because it's your safety and security. So from an evolutionary biology standpoint, if you don't feel safe, it's very hard to move forward in life, because what you focus on is the fear, and you get like so bogged down in that it's very hard to tap into your imagination and creativity and new ideas, and like just being open to receive, because we constrict, right? And again, when I'm talking about these things, nobody's fault, okay? Like, most of the stuff comes from childhood, and you were just taught these things or programmed, right? I'm feeling as though I'm resisting things, which is not allowing life to happen the way I want. Yeah. And so we'll talk more about that too, like how that constricts our reality from like making the shifts that we want to. Okay. So the reason that we're starting with the root chakra, or just one chakra, right? When we are trying, thank you for the follow, when we are trying to heal our whole system, very overwhelming. Who in here feels overwhelmed when they're trying to do healing or shadow work? It's like there's a lot, okay? And healing's a journey, always gonna be healing, but it's just like sometimes it's a lot, okay? That's where breaking these things down into smaller chunks is a lot easier. If you're trying to heal everything you got going on in your life, it scatters your energy as well. Okay, and it seems like it'd be counterintuitive to focus on like one thing at a time, because you're like, oh well, it's gonna take forever. Not necessarily. So if we're working on our root chakra first, and you can work on any, I'm not saying you have to work on your root chakra first, you can blip in and out or whatever you want. The root chakra is just very, very important, because it's literally what like you're seeing your world through. Like most of the time that childhood trauma, or like narcissistic relationships that have like put stuff, you know, in your paradigm. But anyway, so if we focus on our root chakra, let's say, and we pick one thing that is affecting us that I'm about to read off this list, what happens is you start to heal in that one area, and then it has a ripple effect into your other chakras in all areas of your life, because you're healing the foundation. So what seems like it would take a long time, it's like If we're trying to work on third eye chakra, crown chakra, root chakra all at one time, scattered energy. Okay, pinpointing things and working on them one at a time sometimes is a lot more effective, and it takes the pressure off of you. It's like, we don't have to heal everything at one time. Okay, so I always suggest let's start with the root because it's the foundation. But you can do, you know, whatever you want, whatever's good for your healing journey. I do have some self-doubts that I need to work on when connecting with spirit. If you grew up in like a religious household, oh, excuse me, I apologize. If you grew up in a religious household like I did, very oppressive religious household, and nothing against religion, okay, just my life. My grandfather was a preacher, loved him, but still, it was a lot. It can create like instability and insecurity in self when we're trying to step onto our spiritual path, our spiritual journey, and into our soul purpose, because you still have that stuff running in your subconscious, and from childhood it says like, oh, this stuff's evil, or you're going to be persecuted, right? Or you're going to be on the outskirts of society if you go towards this stuff, right? So that's what I mean, like inner child stuff, like what you were programmed with can cause those fears in adulthood. Okay, but we'll talk more about that. Okay, so issues trusting self and trusting others. And y'all can make a note, this will be on YouTube too if you want to come back to them. But issues trusting yourself comes usually from abandonment in childhood. And when I say abandonment to people, like clients, sometimes they're like, well, my parents didn't leave me. And my abandonment comes in a lot of different forms. Like if you're not having your emotional needs met, or if your parents like work all the time and they weren't able to be, you know, very involved in your life, or maybe they didn't have the best communication skills, or they didn't teach you how to process your emotions, or maybe you had guardians that were very aggressive towards you, right? That is all abandonment. You not getting your needs met from authority figures or people that are supposed to give you those things. What ends up happening, not all the time, most of the time, is it makes you very hyper independent. It's like the only person that I can trust is myself. Who in here feels like that? Like real deep down inside, you're like, listen, I am the only person that I can really rely on. Okay. Now the issue with that, and I have been there too. Okay, I see me. Okay, thank you for sharing. The issue with that is that it causes you not to want to take leaps of faith on yourself in life, or to try new things, or shift into a new identity. Because if the only person that you have to rely on is you, well, that would be the greatest disappointment in life if you let yourself down, because what's left after that? And that is something I had to work through. It was super tough. And not everybody makes that correlation that like, hey, if your guardians and parents didn't give you what you need, it's like, well, I'm not going to take a chance because I can't let myself down. That is where inner child healing is very necessary, because you have to reparent and recoach your inner children and be like, listen, I know you went through that, but I'm here. Like, I'm your trust buddy, right? Because it's actually your inner child inside that is holding that perspective. So that's why it's important to come in. That's deep, and I do connect with that. Okay, good, good. It took me a long time to be able to delayer that and find the root. So in issues with trusting other people, like maybe you have had, like I said, a lot of people that have let you down. And so what happens is, I like to say like our old life, like the old chapter. Okay, like there's me, Brittany, right now, but then there's old Brittany from my old life, like before my spiritual awakening journey. I had person after person like let me down or hurt me over and over again. So what you're doing is re-solidifying that in your subconscious, that people equal hurt. So when you do start cultivating a better life for yourself and making these reality shifts that are good for you, we're still holding like guards and walls with people or experiences, because it's like, oh no, there's a potentiality of it being hurt, of us being hurt, but not really, because we're not in that life anymore, right? Like the people that you are with now probably aren't the people that you were with in the past, or like even the relationship dynamics that you have, right? So sometimes our inner children and our younger versions have us locked down in these old paradigms, which is not really us anymore. Like, I don't hang out with people that I used to hang out with. And I'm not the person. Like, I'm not saying that I'm perfect, because I was not the best person in relationships of the past. But if I let my inner children and my past versions rotate around old Brittany's life in that perspective, I'll just constantly keep pushing people away. Or experiences too. It's not always people. Like, sometimes it's like, oh, this really good opportunity comes your way, but you're too scared to make that jump out of uncomfortability, because it's like, ooh, I could be hurt, right? That's your inner children inside, right? And not always. Like, sometimes, you know, we have narcissistic relationships that we've been in that have really done damage to us in our younger years, or maybe you're in one right now, and that can create a lot of fear. But that doesn't mean that that's your future. If we keep on going back to narratives of the past and experiences of the past, it will predict your future, and you will keep going in that cycle, right? So this is where we have to start to like detach from that stuff and be like, yeah, that was me in the past. That's not who I am right now, and that's not what my future looks like. So this is where we have to start to deprogram and delayer this stuff that happened in the past. Root chakra. Okay. Okay, good. I'm glad it's resonating with everybody. Feeling unstable in your reality. So everyone needs to drink some water as well. So this is where we're doing timeline shifting. And it's like you feel like your new higher self is coming in. Okay. But then there's this younger version of us who's like, I don't want to do that. Okay. And that happens to me every time I shift into a new identity or a new chapter of my life. And let me know if this resonates with anybody. Like, we're going through a dark night of the soul, and it is like pulling teeth trying to shift over into the new frequency and the new life. Even though it's better, there's still this younger version of us, if we have dealt with abandonment and fear and trust issues, that's like, let's not do that. Because I don't know what's going to happen, right? It can be very scary making timeline shifts like that. It also feels kind of like a death process that's happening, because when you're letting go of behavioral patterns and triggers that are no longer serving you, it's like a wounded animal, okay? It's gonna do anything in its power to try and stay alive. Your self-limiting beliefs and your behavioral patterns and triggers, they do the exact same thing. They will try and grip onto you, because that is your ego mind. That's your human experience mind. Your multi-dimensional self is like, let's go over here where it's better. And your egoic mind is like, nah, I don't want to do that. And logically, we know it's better on the other side, right? But there's still something within us that's like, please don't do that. Okay, finances. So root chakra, when we're talking about our finances, is never having enough. This is like we're trying to scrape by, like we don't have enough to pay our bills or make payments on things. Sacral chakra is having just enough to get by. And so I like to make that clarification for people, so it's a little bit easier to tackle those things depending on where you're at, right? It's gonna be more beneficial for your root if it's like, we just don't ever have enough, okay? This is where a lack mentality and unhealthy money mindset come in. Again, usually not your fault, excuse me, because we hear a lot of things from our parents or teachers or guardians or society that says, you know, money's evil. Or if you grew up in a religious household, maybe like, oh, you need to wait to be, you know, wealthy till you get to the other side. That's what I heard when I was a kid. Okay, or it's not virtuous to have a lot of money, or, you know, rich people are evil. All of this stuff is just not true. But if you hear it constantly over and over and over again, then that becomes your reality and it becomes your truth. And so if we're holding those type of filter lenses, most of the time it's coming from our root chakra. Now, if it came from childhood, like logically, you know that stuff is not true, right? There are plenty of people out there in the world that have bukus of money that do wonderful, amazing things for the collective, right? You could be one of those people. Okay, but where's that stuff coming from? It's coming from a child that heard it over and over and over again. And now those are the lenses that you're looking through. Conscious adult you knows better. And it's hard to heal those things if you're trying to do it on your adult mind. Because you got to go help that inner child that heard all of those things. This is where inner child healing comes into play. Because I'm going to give you an example. So if you are holding that money is the root of all evil, if I'm talking to an adult, I'm going to talk to an adult a certain way, right? Just like I'm talking to y'all right now. If I was holding a class about money mindset with a group of 8-year-olds, I'm going to have to talk to them in a completely different language. Like, they're not going to understand what I'm saying if I'm talking on like an adult wavelength. And if that's where it started, you have to heal that 8-year-old on their level in order for them to release it, the root of it, right? Okay. Controlling people out of fear, experiences, or controlling self. This is like, I have to know what's going to happen all the time. Like, I don't want to take chances because I don't know what is on the other side of the unknown. Or like, let's say you're working on a project, like perfectionism comes up a lot from here too, because it's like self-worth coming into play. But it's like, this is one of the reasons that unhealthy relationships are very hard to let go of, because at least you know how to mitigate those relationships because they were shown to you as a child. Toxic relationships, if that's all you know, there's safety in that. Even though we know loving relationships would be better, that have good, dynamics, that's an unknown factor. You've never seen it before, and so it's scary. And, okay, sorry, I thought it was somebody left a comment. Okay. So, or controlling self, like, that's one that I've had to heal, is controlling my experiences and outcomes and not leaving the window of opportunity for the universe open enough for them to bring me something I didn't expect. Because that makes life very boring, where you're just like, A equals B, right? But what about all those other letters? Okay. I know that's a weird example, but it really closes the window of opportunity. And when we're talking about predicting your future, if we are, okay, we'll talk about money because that's a big one for people. So if you're like, okay, I made $2,000 last month, that means I'm going to make $2,000 this month. Okay, that might be true in one reality, in one timeline. That's you predicting from past experiences. Okay, what if the universe wants to send you an investment of like $5,000 that you didn't know about, but you're not going to be able to pull that into your reality because you're so dead set on, I'm only going to get $2,000 this month? That is one that I had to really work on, because it really helped me shift over into a new reality where I'm making a ton more money. Is stop looking at what has happened in the past. Like, that's not even real. And when I say that, I want to make sure I specify. Our experiences of the past are very real, like the things that have happened to us. But if you're looking through the lens of prediction for the future, like, that stuff happened in the past, but that's the past. That has no placement on where you're at in this time and space right now. That's when we really start healing our inner child and moving into our higher self, is like, yep, but that's not me now. So when we open that window, we say, okay, universe, like, I know that I made $2,000 a month, but that doesn't mean that I can't make more, or that I will make more. Now the universe, like, you've opened up your wealth container in your frequency to receive. We all have this container of receiving. It's like, how much are we allowing to come in when we take that self-doubt and fear out of it, right? Does that make sense, the way that I worded that? I want to make sure, because I felt like it was a little confusing. Okay, catastrophizing. Catastrophizing is when we go to the worst case scenario all the time. Okay, yes, cool. Sometimes I'll just be talking, I want to make sure. Catastrophizing is when we go to the worst case scenario. That's a controlling mechanism. And that's from trauma, from childhood usually, because we didn't feel safe and secure. And so it's like, okay, that's where that predicting thing comes in. That's where we are trying to control what happens in our future. It's natural to do that because when we were like in caveman days back here, right? You had to think of the worst case scenario to survive. Okay, like there's a tiger maybe behind that bush, or maybe I can't go over here, you know, to this waterfall because like that water isn't safe, you know. There's like this evolutionary thing that is meant to serve us, but we don't necessarily need that all the time anymore. But we're so quick to jump to it to keep us safe. Like, I'll give you an example, like a real-time example. So let's say that your boss sends you an email, okay? You don't know what's inside that email. And you jump right to, oh my God, it's gonna be something terrible, right? Like I've had that when I worked in my office job. Okay, when you go into fear panic mode, you're dumping all this cortisol in your body, and that's causing you to, you know, like panic and go in fight or flight mode. But what that's cosmically causing is you putting negative vibrations and frequencies out towards your job. And so even though you may not get a direct correlation immediately, like maybe there was something good in that email, you're pouring negative vibrations into your job, and you're gonna get it back in some way or the other. I've had to really check myself when I'm working on projects for what I do now, like with the spiritual coaching, is you have to make sure that we're always leaving something on a good note, because where you leave it is where you'll pick it back up. So like earlier I was working on a PowerPoint and I was like, oh my God, this is so frustrating. And I was like, let's think about several things about this that really makes us happy and excited. Because if I just leave that like that, I'm going to be thinking about the negatives and catastrophizing. And then once you start that forward momentum going, it's like a train. It gets like faster and faster and faster and faster. And that's where we start going into rabbit holes and then having like a really bad day. So we got to shift the energy there. That catastrophizing, like I said, it's there to keep you safe, but it's not there to serve you anymore. Okay, too much masculine energy. This is where we feel like we constantly have to like hustle and grind to make things work. And I'm all about inspired action, okay? I'm an inspired action queen. But there's only so much that you can do in the 3D. And you're a co-creator with the universe. So there's also some, you know, surrendering and letting go and going with the flow of life that you also have to meet halfway. But when we're so locked down in fear, you're literally like a petrified like animal that's trying to like fight its way through life, right? Does anybody feel like that sometimes? Like you're just trying to fight your way out, you know what I mean? And it just makes everything so scary and intense. Inspired action queen, yes. Social anxiety also comes from root chakra imbalances, and I'm going to explain a little bit about that. So if you are an empath or a light worker or neurodivergent, okay, let me put some ones in the chat so I can find my peeps. And if you're one of those, okay. So we have had to learn how to find all the negative vibrations in the room to keep ourselves safe. Okay, I got a lot of ones. You have become hyper vigilant on finding frequencies of sadness and frustration and anger, because if you didn't do that, it meant something negative was going to happen to you. And you've also had to learn how to shift the frequencies in the room, which is not something a child should have a responsibility of. And a lot of our people pleasing and perfectionism come from that trauma. That is trauma. A child having to do that. And a lot of people that I talk to are like, oh, I didn't have trauma as a child. And then I start kind of showing the different lenses here, and they're like, oh. Right? So that's why we get stressed and anxious sometimes when we go out in public now as adults, because you're still running that same programming. Instead of looking for the positive frequencies in the room of people like happy and joyful and blissful, you know, and smiling and having a good time, you are instantly going to the negative vibrations. And you're constantly reading people. Like everybody you walk by, you're just like, what's going on with them? What's going on with them? What you're doing is overloading your central nervous system, and you're making yourself go into fight or flight, and all that cortisol that's running in your body is completely draining you. Stress hormones will completely wreck your physical body and your spiritual body and your mental body and your emotional body. Like, it is so detrimental. This is where we have to come in with that inner child healing and reteach them, like, hey, we don't need to do that anymore. Like, that's something that served us when we were a child because it helped us, you know, be safe, but you're safe with me now, and we don't have to automatically be reading everybody constantly because it's exhausting and unnecessary. Okay. But I always like to show that correlation for people, because some people don't realize that it was your empathic and light worker and neurodivergent skills of hypersensitivity, which are a beautiful blessing when used correctly. If they're used to find, you know, negativity, it just amplifies everything like back to you so much and so intensely. You might have nightmares. Sometimes, like, our subconscious when we're sleeping is that's a way for it to work things out on the astral plane without you having to like experience it here on this one. So if you have a lot of fear and anxiety coming up from your root chakra, it's going to try and work it out during your sleep. And so that's why we have those nightmares sometimes and difficulty sleeping. Because if your central nervous system's like kicked on 24/7 in fight or flight, it's going to be very difficult for you to sleep. You're going to be waking up 19 times a night. Okay, so physical things that you might have going on, because those are more like mindset, energetic. Constipation, bowel issues, weight loss or gain, which is sometimes that's a trauma response as well, and a controlling mechanism over your body. Sometimes we don't see that, but it's something from your subconscious that's saying like, oh, I need to hold on to this weight, or I need to lose this weight, right? I wake up 19 times a night because of the cats. That might be another reason too, if you have pets. You're very tired all the time because of stress, anxiety, fear. Cortisol makes you very sleepy and tired after you get out of fight or flight. Weakened immune system, so if you get sick a lot, fear and stress and anxiety cause sickness. It also is a big underlying root of anxiety and depression. I'm not saying that's the only reason, because sometimes it's like chemical imbalances, but like for me, I had like major imbalances in my root chakra, which caused my anxiety and depression, my eating disorder, and my body dysmorphia. So I had to work through all of these things to be able to heal through those. Issues with your back or your legs or your spine or your feet, so like the lower portion of your body. So what can we do to bring some harmony and balance here with these? So you can listen to there's a couple different things here that we need to do. The first one is frequency healing. This is where we're working on our light body and our chakra system, right? Then there's your physical body. This is where we're getting the cortisol out. Cortisol doesn't just go away, and stress hormones. You have to do something to elevate your heart rate to get it out of your system. This one gets missed a lot by people. Like, we either need to be taking a real brisk walk after we get in fight or flight, or we need to do dancing, you know, in your living room, or we need to do some stretching. It has to be something to physically push that stuff out of your body. And then we have mindset shifts. This is where we're doing like journaling things, right? Or we're doing that inner child healing where we're helping them heal those memories. Reiki and light language are great to listen to specifically for your root chakra. When we're listening to just chakra healing Again, we want to pinpoint things because then it gets stronger, right? So if we're listening to a seven chakra Reiki or light language, that's great, love that. But if you're trying to focus on something very specifically, like your money stuff, we want to root chakra specific, right? It's going to be more beneficial. Eating red color foods, those are great for your root chakra, like kidney beans, apples, just anything with that color, and then backing that up with the intentionality of asking the food to help you heal your root chakra, because a lot of this intentions really shift things. And that food, if you're an energy healer and you ask it to help heal you, and you don't have to be an energy healer, I just mean if you're into energy healing, okay, if you ask the food to help you, it will, but you have to ask it. It shifts the consciousness of the food. Red velvet cupcakes, sure. Absolutely. Like, and Nicole and I have talked about that before, about how sometimes we put like these really big labels of this food is bad and this food is good. There's a lot of stuff that your body can transmute for you. If you hold that intention of like, I only absorb good things in my body and I transmute and let go of things that are not quote unquote good, right? But if we're just instantly saying like, oh, this is bad, you're literally telling your cells and DNA to like transmute it into like negative stuff in your body. So we want to ask the food. And wearing clothes that have that color, same thing. You can ask the color to help heal that chakra. That's one of the reasons I dyed my hair blue like a long time ago, y'all who've known me for a while, because I had major throat chakra imbalances, and seeing it all the time, that blue on my hair, helped me heal my my throat chakra, because it was ever present in my mind, and I would ask my hair and the color to help heal it. Let's see. Doing yoga or meditations that are specific for your root chakra, very helpful, very beneficial. Shadow work, journaling. That's one form of shadow work, right? Where we're healing our mindset. And I'm going to give you all some examples of some questions that you can ask. Wow, I recently dyed my hair blue. Oh, that's cool. I would ask your higher self if you have some like throat chakra. That's so funny. V just gave me some throat chakra stuff that you intuitively felt drawn to do. And it was a surprise color from the stylist. Oh, I love that. Maybe it's like a boost. Okay. And hey, V, doing shadow work, journaling. Okay, so here's some questions. But you can Google them. There's tons of them. So what in my external world helps me feel safe? I want you to think about that right now. What is the first thing that comes to your mind? Usually whatever comes up first is like the most important thing to your subconscious, whether it needs to be healed or released or amplified. Like that's an immediate indicator of what is going on. And then you can ask the same question, different lens. What internally helps me feel safe in my internal world? So we can think about that. What helps me internally feel safe? Like for me, what just came up was clear communication with people. Or me being a clear communicator, right? When you think about the word family, what comes up? That one might be intense for some people, because your root chakra is so tied in with your family experiences and dynamics when you were a kid. So when we're asking ourselves these questions, we're keeping in mind, like, this is what my subconscious, this is where it's at. Because if you're not asking yourself these questions, you're really sitting in your conscious mind, and it's more difficult to do healing work through your conscious. We're trying to get to the subconscious, like where the kids are and where the root to this stuff happened, right? And then, do I trust myself? That is another root chakra journal prompt. Do I trust myself? Yeah, that's a really intense one that comes up with people like family. But we also have to remember okay, this is where I mean like inner child healing is very important, because when we're having those things come up with our family, most of the time it's the inner children that feel that way, not you as an adult, because we're pulling on past experiences. Like you're a grown adult, right, that has a car and you can just leave sometimes, and I'm saying that's always a possibility, but you have a lot more control over your reality now. But we get triggered around family and we kind of snap back to that childlike consciousness of saying like, I don't have authority here, or I just have to listen to what this person says and I have no room to like share my opinion or beliefs, right? We get very retracted within self, and it's really scary because it just zaps you right back to that time and space of you being a kid, because we get PTSD is like your emotions and your memories get all tied up with one another. And so when you get triggered, it zaps you back in that consciousness of you being a child from when it happened to you then. And so that's why sometimes we go to these family events and we're like, dang, why did I retract into myself like that? Or why did I say that? Why did I act that way? Why did I respond in that way? When you normally wouldn't, like around your friends or other people. It's because you're getting snapped back to that child consciousness. That's why I never go in one vehicle, I always take two. Yup, that's one of my safety things with my inner child. I don't go with people in car rides unless I know you super, super well, like we're going on a trip or going somewhere, like, you know, that's a safety thing. It's like, no, I'll just drive myself. Right? Unless you're one of my like people from my new life. Does that make sense? Like people that I resonate in with and are alignment now. But if it's things from like the old life, it's like, no, I'll just drive myself, because that gives me that sense of safety and security that my inner children need, right? And so that's an executive decision that I make over them. Is, nope, we're gonna do what's best for us. Okay, even if you feel guilty for having those thoughts, which is fine. You could, Sarah, I would ride in the car with you. I would take a car ride with you. You from my new life. Okay. So the main thing that we need to be doing here to heal these things, all the things that I said were great, or work great, but processing your emotions is a huge one. Most of us have not been taught how to process them. And so we have all this like fear and anxiety and sadness and shame and guilt and regret that are sitting inside of us and just like ruminating up in there. Very heavy and dense frequencies. And if you have all that inside of you, it's very difficult to pull in happiness and bliss and peace and serenity, because those heavy ones overshadow those. And nobody's fault, because most of us have not been taught how to do it, but you have to process through that stuff. And it's not fun. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's not a good time. But the more that you do it, the easier it gets. Like, you start learning how to channel them and let them run through you instead of like absorbing and sitting in the inside of those. Emotions are fuel. Okay, so a lot of us are living in these realities. This was me too in the past, living in realities that are not in alignment with us, because we're very powerful manifestors. Like if you're a neurodivergent, light worker, empath, extremely powerful manifestors. So if you are focusing on all these things that we talked about previously and not processing your emotions, what happens is you are manifesting through the lens of shame, regret, fear, anxiety, and then you're getting it amplified back to you. That was a very negative cycle that I was in. When you learn to process through that, now we're looking through the lenses of happiness, bliss, peace, serenity, and abundance. And then you're getting that amplified back to you. So when we are not wanting to sit with our feelings and thoughts and emotions, and we're just like suppressing them down inside, that's where we get hiccups with our manifestations. And sometimes we're not correlating those things with one another, right? But you got to think of these things like filter lenses, like I was saying previously. Are we manifesting through anger, sadness, fear, and stress? Because then that is what we're going to get more of. And sometimes people don't realize like how powerful of a manifestor you are. Again, with the, and they're fuel for your manifestations. Like, let's think of something you want to manifest. It's not really about the manifestation. It's more about the emotion underneath. Like, what is that going to bring you? So let's say that you want to manifest a new house, okay? And we are stressed thinking about it, like, oh my God, how am I ever going to make this work? Well, what you're doing in the etheric field is pushing it further from you. You're like pushing it with negativity. But if we switch over here and we say, oh my God, I'm so excited. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it is. And I'm going to be so happy and grateful and thankful. And it's going to be a lovely time when I get that new house. Now we're pulling it in. But you have to clear out that heavier, denser stuff first to be able to get to that filter lens. Okay, inner children healing. So your inner children are so tapped into your imagination and creativity. Like, they can help you manifest wild stuff. Okay, but if they are living in all this trauma energy that hasn't been processed yet, they can't tap into the imagination and creativity. Because from a biology standpoint, that cuts off. Like, when you're stressed and anxious, like, it's very difficult to have like new ideas come in or see like from an optimistic viewpoint, right? And so when we heal our inner children, now that really opens up our manifesting like capabilities, because we're not living in that fear state of like, oh, that could never be me, or that could never happen for me. Yes, it can. It absolutely can, right? And we can take our inner children on that process with us. I have you do have very creative inner children, V. And V's done that too. Like, V's a great example. She's cleared out like a ton of heavy, dense process emotions to clear the path for her inner children, right? Let's see. Yes, imagination. Okay. So if anybody is interested in healing these things or learning about your other chakras, this is just one. Okay, our root chakra. And I work with a 12 transpersonal chakra system, but we don't talk about all those, just the Earth Star chakra. That one's important too. So if you want to learn more about how to heal these things, how to connect to your inner children and how to heal them, and how to process your emotions so that you can more easily manifest, I have a workshop that's coming up, or it's a course, and it's called A Multi-Dimensional Magic, and we talk all about these things, very in depth. We also talk about the Akashic Records. Hey, Christian, the Akashic Records, how to connect with them for people that have that, want to start learning about them. I love working with the Earth Star Chakra. Yeah, it's great. So we talk about the Akashic Records, how to timeline shift, and how to bring more money into your life. Because if we have all of these like negative vibrations around money, it's very difficult to pull more in. But if we learn how to process our emotions and heal our inner children and their money mindset, then it starts really flooding in. So all of these things are very interconnected with one another. This is where there's sometimes like gaps in people's healing process, because you've got to process emotions, you've got to heal your inner kids, and you've got to work on your mindset. Like, it's a big puzzle piece that all fits in together. But if you're interested in that and learning some new manifestation techniques, all the information is in my profile. It says Multi-Dimensional Magic Course. It's $35. It's like 4 hours worth of content. It's a self-study course. It's going to be $45 after March 1st. That's when it's being sent out to everybody that signs up. Is this class I got about an email today? Yes. That is a class. It's a self-study course. I did a live version of it, but not everybody's on different time zones, and it was just very difficult for everybody to kind of get together. So I just wanted to offer it in like a self-study course. But it's me walking you through every single one of these steps, very in depth. You will have all the keys, okay, to do what I've done. It's basically everything that I have learned to get me to where I'm at right now. Like, I wish I would have had something like this. It would have made it a lot easier instead of trying to like piece it all together. My inner children have been bringing up money things lately. It's time to heal that in me. Yeah, And usually it's like them that needs to heal with that money mindset and talking to them on that child level. So if you're watching on YouTube, all the information is in the description below. You can register and sign up there. And it's for you to keep. It doesn't expire. Let's see. I'm doing it, but can't sign up till Monday. Oh, that's fine. That price is good until March 1st. So you've got plenty of time. And it'll just be $45 after that, but it's still accessible at any time. Does anybody have any questions about the things that I talked about or went over? I've got like 10 more minutes that I can stay on. And we'll get some energy clearing here as well. Or did anybody learn anything new? Or maybe you picked up on maybe an imbalance that you're having, or maybe you didn't know it was from your root chakra. Oh, thank you for that tiny little dinosaur. That was cute. And with this energy healing here, you can ask it to go to your root chakra and either amplify something or help release something. And this is the frequency healing part. Like I said before, like mindset is really important because we're a human being with a biological like brain. Okay, and there's certain experiences that have happened to us in this incarnation, right? But then it's also important to do like the frequency healing part because you're a multidimensional being that has a light body, an auric field, a chakra system. Maybe you have past incarnations, like I don't have to get into that, but past incarnations that have had issues with their root chakra. That's where frequency healing comes in. It can help you really clear those things out. I get anxiety when people stare at me in public, but I didn't before. When you become a more in-depth energy reader and you read frequencies on a bigger scape, energy affects you a lot more, right? Like I look back at a couple years ago, things that bother me now didn't in the past, but that's because I'm have a more in-depth frequency reading ability now. And the stronger your energy field gets as well, which Sarah, you've been working real dedicatedly on your energy field. The stronger your energy field gets, the more polarizing you are to people. Because if people have, like, we're mirrors as empaths and light workers. Okay, especially or neurodivergent people that have a real good understanding of behavioral patterns and triggers and don't adhere to like societal authority, you know, like facadal authority stuff. You're very triggering to people. Okay, because you make them like face their shadows. Even if you're not doing it intentionally, like you're shining like so much light, it's very repelling to people that are not on that journey or don't want to have anything to do with that. And so sometimes when you're like, people are snapping their neck at you, okay, or like cutting eyes at you, it's because you have a very strong energy field. And sometimes that's a lot for people, okay? But that's where we have to be very like strong in our own energy field and be like, okay, well, I'm not for everybody and I'm gonna continue to shine my light. And sometimes that's our own projections. Okay, that was me when like I was holding, because you know, just all this stuff, trauma, whatever, but I was holding this like image in my head that everybody was staring at me because they don't like me, when in reality, like maybe they're just looking at you because they like your energy, or maybe you're just like, that's new to them and they're uncomfortable because that's new. We don't always have to necessarily like jump to they're looking at me because they don't like me, right? I just want to say that. And I'm not saying that with you, Sarah, necessarily, but like that was me in the past. Root has been popping up a lot this week for me. The journal prompts are the most helpful for me. Yeah, there's like so many journal prompts on Google, like a million different. Or Pinterest is a really good one. Just pick one and just like see where your subconscious is sitting with it, or like looking through the lens of you being the higher self, and then asking your inner child, like instead of asking you, adult you, ask your inner child how they feel about that question. Now we're kind of like separating from it and saying like, okay, that happened to us in the past, that's not us now, how can I help you work through it? Right? That's how we detach from it being a current paradigm program, right? Yeah, soulful questions, I like that. Or they won't look at me. Yeah, sometimes it's just like, it's just intense, like your light field, your energy field. Okay, you're like a celebrity walking into the room, right? But we want to be polarizing. That's another thing that people are like so worried about is, you know, what if people don't like me? I want to be as polarizing as absolutely possible now, because I realized like me trying to play this tiptoe game of trying to get everybody to like me, like that was a huge thing I had to work through, was like, I don't want everybody to like me, because I want people that are aligned. I had to wear a mask for so long, and it was so detrimental to my life. And then I got lost in the mask, and it took me a long time to find myself. And I want to be extremely polarizing, because the more polarizing I am, the clearer the aligned relationships are, right? We're not trying to make everybody happy. You're not gonna be everybody's cup of tea. Okay, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. Like when I make content on here, like sometimes I'll be making real bold statements, okay? And I used to make content with like this underlying fear of like, oh, well, what if people don't like what I'm saying? What if they say I'm dumb and stupid? You know, all this stuff. Like, I don't want those people in my community. I want the aligned people. So I have to be more authentic and more vulnerable in order for them to see me, right? The real me, not the facade mask, right? Because that's why we feel very empty sometimes in our relationships, because they're in a relationship with our mask, and then we wonder why nobody is understanding us on a very deep level. It's because we're not showing that to them. We're not showing up authentically. But again, sometimes we have these inner children that are inside of us that are very fearful of being alone and being abandoned. And so toxic relationships are relationships that are just like, okay, right? That's why we keep them in our life. And so that's where that, again, always goes back to inner child healing. But that's what I said today. You are not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Yeah, and that's fine. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It doesn't mean anything is wrong with them. Just different people resonating on different wavelengths, different frequencies. Like sometimes people will come into my live and just be saying real nasty stuff in the comments, and people are like, how do you not get triggered by that? And I'm like, because that was me in the past. Like I was like super negative and like real, you know, like gossipy and drama, and I didn't believe in spirituality and all that stuff. That's just the place I was in life. And that's fine. Okay. Like I'm not going to get triggered by something that, you know, I used to be in that space of life. Right? I'm not saying let anybody just treat you any type of way. Like I'll just block people. But I'm not going to try, what I was trying to say is I'm not going to try and like convince you or argue with you or try and get you to see my opinion when you're coming from that space of like closed offness. Does that make sense? Okay, that's what I see that you changed your name, Eliana, there. All right, everybody. Well, this will be up on YouTube if you want to watch a replay. Maybe if you weren't here for the whole workshop. I also have a lot of other longer form content over there as well. And I talk about starting or growing your spiritual business. I talk about inner child healing, money mindset, a lot of different things over there, longer workshops. And then if you want to sign up for the multidimensional course, again, all the information is in my profile, and we talk about all the stuff very in depth. Okay, all right, everybody, I hope you have a magical day, and I will see you next time.